lot more happens in 69 than anyone remembers. Human beings. I thought I'd never get done saving you. From the Quarks, the Dominators, the
Okay.
Master of Fiction, the Cybermen, the Crotons, the Ice Warriors,
We
the
get
Space
it.
Pirates, the War Chief, the Warlords, the Time Lords, the Autons, the Neskin. Oh wait, that was 70. Or what's that 80? I can't remember anymore. And there was the Silurians, the Daleks. Repeatedly, the Daleks. The Daemons. The Sontarans. The Zygons. I wonder when we'll see them again.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 65 of an Unearthly podcast featuring the Impossible Astronaut and streaming live on July 23, 2014. My name is Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell,
Hello.
Randy Ronson McCulloch,
Always a pleasure.
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke,
Audio.
and Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Yo!
That's officially your nickname now, by the way.
Yes, unless we hear
Unless
another
you
one.
demand a change, that's officially your nickname right now.
In the news today, 1 month and counting until the start of Series 8, and lucky fans getting to meet us at GeekCon. Or fans getting to watch the start of Series 8 with us while at GeekCon. Speaking of Series 8, we've got a new trailer that came out today. Has everyone watched that yet?
No, I
Yes,
haven't. I was
I
intending
have.
to, but we ran out of time.
I watched it.
It's basically a shorter version of the 1 minute trailer, right? Was there anything noticeable that wasn't...
I didn't see any
the new
new
one that
footage,
I
and I
got?
looked.
So it's
Yeah.
pretty much the exact same thing, just made shorter, probably for television.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was nothing new.
I'm like, some of it was probably reordered and whatever, but that's pretty standard for trailers.
Mm-hmm. Never have the exact same trailer ever.
Although, yeah, it's definitely frustrating sometimes when you're looking for new footage and you just keep finding a whole bunch of trailers with with the footage in different orders. I've experienced that in the past. More on Series 8. Apparently, Deep Breath is getting a solo DVD release, essentially as a movie, I suppose.
Oh, there's going to be a fairly long episode, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I guess I can see that with it being a double-length episode. When they released End of Time, did it have its own release? I
do
know-
not know.
can't
I know
remember.
the
I
specials.
think all the specials had their own releases.
Okay. Then yes, that does make sense then. Normally, when you see a season release, you'll see like the first 2-3 episodes released on a disc.
Yeah.
And they'll do that repeatedly throughout the season until they get to the end, and then 6 months later they'll come out with the entire season box set.
If the 2009 specials were released together, then they were on separate discs, because I know that Netflix gives them out as separate discs.
Yes,
I've already seen a cover for the End of Time Parts 1 and 2, so I'm guessing that was released on DVD on its own.
Okay, that makes sense then. I know the specials were later released as a collection, but
Okay.
that was after they'd gotten individual releases, I guess.
And it's apparently it's Amazon North America, so Region 1 is announcing Deep Breath for September 9th release, which means that...
Oh yeah, I found Blu-ray of it now.
So that means that by the time Episode 5 has come out, Deep Breath will be on DVD and Blu-ray.
That means probably 2-3 more weeks later we'll see the next DVD of Season 8. Although I'm surprised it's getting a North American release that quickly. Normally we'd see it released...
Are you aware that you're still...
I'm stuck.
He's still.
Okay.
He's
I'm
stuck.
stuck.
He's stuck now.
Once you start, you can never go back.
I can maybe
It's-
get him into a Cockney accent. Howdy,
No.
Governor. How you
But-
doing today?
Normally, like I said, we'd see...
Flowers.
She keeps pushing.
You're not helping. Not even remotely.
Bugger.
But as I was saying, normally would see the UK release probably 2 months ahead of the North American release. And obviously that's not happening this time, which is probably more of the fact that the BBC's aware of how much of a thing Doctor Who is now here in North America.
I don't know, the British might already have the Deep Breath DVD. There's been enough leaks.
There have been enough leaks and plot holes that, yeah, maybe it already is being...
I'm very
put to
certain
print.
someone out there does have a unofficial Deep Breath DVD.
Yeah.
Probably. Because people, you know.
Now, speaking of DVDs, the interesting thing about that is that Day of the Doctor does not have its own DVD. It's sharing one with the name, night, and time of the Doctor, as well as an adventure in space and time, and there we go. As well as the Five-ish Doctors reboot, the Science of Doctor Who at the Proms 2013, and The Last Day. Well, The Last Day is like
Well,
a 30
the
second
proms.
episode.
Normally, the proms is tacked on to the Christmas DVD at the same time. I was recently, for our last podcast, I'd watched A Christmas Carol, and that had the 2010 proms on that disc too. However, there was a 50th anniversary release of Day of the Doctor that did not have the rest. I know, I have it.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
the con has it. This is a new set.
Gotcha. So this is a special edition version of it then.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Essentially a special edition collection of all this stuff. You know, just for the people who want that particular story to loan out to people.
Right.
So that everyone can get through the whole thing in one fell swoop.
Like, honestly, if I were buying Day of the Doctor on DVD, this is probably the one that I would want anyway. I mean, if you're going to have Day of the Doctor on DVD, you might as well have, essentially what essentially came to 4 anniversary episodes, plus the special and whatever else.
Yes, this is what I'd want for my personal collection. As opposed to what I get for the con to play on the players as soon as I can. This probably won't be out by the end of August. In fact, it's supposed to be released in the UK September 8th.
And there's, as far as I'm aware, no U.S. release date, but I'm about to check on that.
Might be November. If I was them,
Might
I'd
be.
try to get it out. I'd try to get
November
it out by
23rd?
November. Not necessarily, but close enough. It's more to get it out in time for the Christmas rush.
Ah, yes.
So preferably before Black Friday.
Oh, you're
Right.
gonna get that Christmas rush? Oh.
Well, is Black Friday after the 23rd of November this year?
Good question.
I'm assuming Black Friday is the 28th as compared to the 21st. So yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, most likely the 28th. So they probably will release it close to the anniversary again.
I don't know. Thanksgiving is one of those odd holidays.
It's one of them wonky ones, and practically nobody actually celebrates it on the day anymore.
It is November 27th, so Black Friday would be the 28th.
So they will want to try and get that out that week, because then all the Who fans who are doing the Black Friday stuff will be rushing for it.
Well, or the wives or mothers of Who fans.
And significant
Okay,
others and so forth.
This box set has not yet appeared on Amazon as a box set. As of course, there is the 50th anniversary collection under Instant, which is probably... Oh no, it's not the same thing either. Well, it's got some of the same stuff, but not all of it. So yeah, this is not announced for a Region 1 release just yet.
They'll probably hold that to their chests for a while too, anyway.
Yeah.
Let's see, I believe we had a couple of other. Here we go. Oh, yeah, we did talk about the trailer. We talked about that. Okay, so Did you guys look at the other one that I was saying may or may not be newsworthy?
I'm looking now.
Okay.
The one about the possible-ish.
Well, it's
They
okay.
mentioned
I'll
the
just
missing
I'll just
episodes.
explain it now. It's essentially another piece saying that they're neither confirming nor denying that there are more episodes found. But the reason it stood out to me compared to some of the others is that basically, Philip Morris, the person who's responsible for the most recent discoveries, is basically saying it's a bad time for announcements because it makes his team into targets when they're searching in hostile parts of the world. So that kind of makes it sound like they have. I mean, this might be intentional, obviously, but it makes it sound like they have something to announce and are just waiting until a safer time to say it till they get home. But of course, that's speculation, essentially.
It is speculation. It could also mean that they are still actively looking.
So if
They are
actively
actively
looking and don't
looking.
want
They're
to be suddenly turned
absolutely,
away
yeah.
and noticed.
Well, no, it's somebody basically reading these sites, one of these African guerrilla terrorist groups that are in the area, and goes, "Hey, look, there's a bunch of British people wandering around over here. Let's capture them, torture them, or hold them for hostage, or whatever they want to do.
Or
I'm not
steal,
them."
or
Yeah,
steal the rare discoveries that they've found and try to sell it for money and kill the people who found it.
doubtful because I doubt they have an outlet for those rare discoveries.
Mm,
But it's not impossible.
right.
There's always black market.
Black market is the black market. The market is black. But it's a market black. Yes.
And
BBC Worldwide also states in there that at the moment they do not have any of the missing 97 episodes. So that means that their restoration crew isn't working on anything right now.
Because they don't
So
have anything on hand.
if there's more out there in Africa, it hasn't been found yet.
Yeah, because I remember
Or at least not given to
our
the
friend
BBC.
Sarah was speculating that they might be working on fixing some up, but he's confirmed that they are not.
Not currently, yeah.
But again, that's not to say that Morris's organization doesn't have some that they're waiting until a better time to give to the BBC.
Possibly. Or it just means that they have leads, but
Right.
nothing tangible yet.
Yeah, and his other one about the wind blowing the right way sounds that way, that he's looking into some leads and is hoping that he'll find some episodes there.
Right.
Either way, he doesn't want to give specifics and he doesn't want to get hopes up.
Right.
We know if he
But he's
finds
also
anything,
not going to say no.
we know that if he finds anything, it's not going to be all of the 97 missing episodes. Some of them never left England.
It's specifically those 97 episodes and no others. Someone just had a specific 97 episode collection, and that's what they had.
It's not going to turn out that way, no.
No.
There may be another 5 to 10. 97 is what's left.
I agree with Morris on which specific episodes would be best to find, though.
Such
10th Planet.
as...
10th Planet 4 with the entirety of Power of the Daleks would be probably one of the best discoveries that could be made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
If anything's going to be together, it would be them, because it's essentially an ongoing story arc.
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We still have good hopes on 10th Planet. I mean, we know it existed past the great purge. I almost said great binging and purging. Great. The BBC's bulimia moment. Anyway, we know it existed past then because clips of it were given to things like Blue Peter.
Mm-hmm.
So it's out there. What's happened to it afterwards is what's the big question mark, where it went. I doubt we'll find it in Africa, but it's also possible of finding another copy.
Yeah.
But finding another copy, the odds are just about as good as any of the other episodes that were shipped internationally. I would love to see Power of the Daleks. I would love to see the entirety of the moon base restored. I would love to
The
see,
Massacre is another one I'd really like to see, because then you'd actually get to see Hartnell acting opposite himself.
like we did with Troughton.
Yeah.
We've seen that, it's funny. Hartnell managed to do it twice, actually. Although he was killed shortly, the other one was killed shortly into the Romans, if I recall. Troughton did it once. Baker did it at least once. Twice, if you count the crazy computer that used his face. But I do not recall any of the other doctors in Classic Who being able to play both the main character and the villain in the same series.
In the same story, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've had Colin Baker play, the Time Lord Captain in Arc of Infinity.
Mm-hmm.
But,
That was like about a season or so apart.
well, technically, Matt Smith got to do it too.
Yeah.
Twice over.
Well, you were saying Classic Who, so I wasn't going to
Right.
argue with you. But yeah, Modern Who,
Right.
yeah, Matt Smith is the first one to be able to do it again.
And he did it twice over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I was sitting here like, I knew it was twice, but for a second I couldn't remember what one of them was. But yeah, that's actually the next, well, chronologically the next episode after the one we're talking about today.
Yes.
No. Or is there one in between?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. No, it wasn't two-parter season middle, was it? There must have been something in between.
No, it's the one we're doing tonight. It's Curse of the Black Spot.
Black Spot, that was the one in between. There we go.
A black spot!
And
I the black spot.
Your spot.
also the Doctor's wife.
Oh, that was in there too. Okay.
Yes, and actually the one that we were thinking of was not a Moffat script, at least.
No, it's not. It's not a Moffat script, so we're not. That's why I said chronologically it is, but it's not our next discussion.
No.
No.
It leads into our next discussion.
Mm-hmm. But it was a Matthew Graham script, if I recall. And the other one, of course, was a Neil Gaiman, which
Yeah.
we've already reviewed.
5 stars.
And our next bit of news is a kind of minor one, and it was the Department of Psychological Studies at Birkbeck College in the University of London is essentially doing, you could probably call it a census of Doctor Who fans. Essentially, looking at it's just a survey you can fill out regarding, what type of demographics Doctor Who fans consist of. They're looking for that type of information.
And that looks like they're looking for it in the UK.
Mostly.
Is it only the UK?
We are looking for participants for interviews, discussions based in the UK. So I would say yes.
Yeah.
So the,
I participated in the survey. So,
you're going to skew the results.
well, the link to the survey does not say anything about it being UK based. Oh well. Either way, I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
I wonder what they're trying to discover.
I think it's basically just to figure out, who's watching Doctor Who and what type of things they can say about society or learn, or about Doctor Who as a result.
I'm wondering if somebody's doing a thesis on that watching Doctor Who has a positive aspect on one's.
Well, there is, for example, they ask your age group, and then they also ask you, are you a fan of New Who, Classic Who, both, or neither? or other. So I'm kind of, I'm sure there's going to be studies like, are older fans more likely to be a fan of only Classic Who? Are younger fans more likely to be a fan of only New Who? Other things of that nature. Are there more white people watching Doctor Who than X demographic?
Are X type of people watching it more than other types of people, etc., etc.? Any other little tidbits that they think will be interesting that they can milk out of it?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's. I'm sorry, I said psychological. I think it was psychosocial. So social sciences in general. So yeah, I'm sure the sociology department has plenty of things to look into it. And that's about it for the news, unless anybody really wants to talk about any of the magazines or comics or any of the other incidental stuff. Which we
Not really.
Not particularly. We don't normally follow those.
Yeah.
Those cost money. We don't have a lot of money.
Like, if you're interested in the new 10th, 11th and 12th Doctor, 10th and 11th Doctor comics, there is stuff going on with San Diego Comic-Con. There is a trailer for them. I don't think any of us have watched it. We're not really going to talk about it. But, if you're interested in that stuff, go ahead, look it up. I'm sure it's, if you can afford to keep up with another comic line. I really can't right now, but probably worth reading. And I think that's about it for the news.
Did we want to talk here about, once again, about us meeting at GeekCon?
Yeah, we could do a bit more. There's we're pretty much confirmed at this point for two panels. One before Deep Breath airs and one afterward. The latter, of course, being essentially a live episode of this podcast.
Yes. Between that, we are going to be watching the episode, just preferably prior to our podcast. We may be watching it in a public area. There is a local pub that is supposed to actually be showing Doctor Who, and we may be watching it there.
I might eat something Scottish if they have it.
Well, I'd probably try the shepherd's pie.
As long as I don't know what is Scottish to eat. I don't want haggis.
Come on, haggis.
I'm not sure what else is typical Scottish cuisine that's different from British.
From what I understand, meat and fried things are very Scottish, but they're also very American.
Yes, that's very true.
We have so much in common.
Like, what was it the doctor said? Fry something, you're Scottish.
What was that, Tim?
Fry something, you're Scottish. Everyone's Scottish. I'm Scottish, you're Scottish. We're all Scottish.
Or British. Or Native American. Or German. Or a mixture of things. I don't know.
Yes.
Trying not to spoiler. Spoilers.
Spoilers, BT.
Yes, no spoilers. But if we want, someone can talk about the episode summary.
I actually did watch it today. Actually, matter of fact, I finished watching it a couple minutes before we started getting ready for the call.
Okay. Do we want me to do the summary as per usual? Or did someone else want to?
I was just offering.
You want to do it, Matt?
I can do it.
Randy doesn't hear when Matt speaks anymore.
Apparently.
No, I heard you say that you'd watched it. I didn't say you volunteered to do it.
But that was more or less a volunteering.
Very passive-aggressive volunteering.
But
But you want to do it, be my guest.
Alrighty.
I will take the week off.
So, shall we go for the long version or the short version?
It's a 2-hour. It's a summary of 2 one-hour episodes, Matt. Let's try to make it as short as possible.
Try to make it as short as possible. Okay.
And there's like a whole bunch of plot in a missing episode that was never written or aired. Because never mind, those comments can come later.
Spoilers.
Spoilers! Spoilers! So basically the story starts off more or less, and again, please don't jump in too often. I will be skipping the less important details. But the story more or less kicks off with Amy and Rory as they are looking over things. They are finding little notations of the Doctor popping up through time here and there. I believe they start off with a book reading about how he escaped a prison. I want to say in the Middle Ages, something like that.
Middle Ages, Renaissance, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
something.
thought you were skipping the less important details.
Then they also watch a movie which the Doctor somehow manages to appear on screen, and they're continuing to talk about how they think that the Doctor is apparently just sending them little hellos. To which, when the mail finally comes in, they get a blue letter. They read the details. It's tires blue. They are told essentially a time and a location and try to reach it at the right moment. Uh, we also pan away to a couple of other. I believe in particular we pan away also to River Song getting a similar letter, and that she starts packing. A few moments later, Amy and Rory finally get off a bus, arriving in the middle of a desert, and then they turn around to find the Doctor with a cowboy hat on, sitting on top of a car, I believe.
A Cadillac, I think.
They start talking, share their hellos, hugs, and everything. Then River Song shows up after shooting the Doctor's hat.
Of course.
He can't keep a hat. Can't have nice things.
She won't let him keep a hat.
They decide to catch up quickly while they're at a restaurant and apparently discuss a little bit about why the Doctor wanted them there. He says it's pretty much he wants to be with friends. It's very important, but but also he wants to mention going to 1969. A bit more progresses as they go off on a picnic. While they're there, Amy spots a figure off on the hill, but then immediately forgets it once she looks away. Not long after this, the person in a 1960s-esque spacesuit walks out of the lake. The Doctor tells everyone to stay back and not to interfere, to which he gets shot 3 times and dies, and the spaceman walks away. Spoilers on this later, I would assume.
I turned my mic off.
Right after this all happens, actually right before the Doctor gets up and walks off, another person had shown up and waved to the Doctor, and the Doctor waved back. It turns out to be a American who is very much on in his years, and that he apparently knows the Doctor, and he also got a similar letter, as they find out later. He showed up, he was pretty much told to show up with some gasoline, as he already predicted that he was apparently going to die there. They also find a boat there next to the lake. They set the body in the boat and light the Doctor on fire, giving him a little funeral pyre. Especially since apparently any bit of a Time Lord is extremely important and valuable and would be fought over by nearly every race in the galaxy. They head back to the restaurant where they were at earlier, and Rory and River Song are going on and on about what this could actually really be about, because obviously this is a little bit strange and kind of unheard of. To which Amy tries to point out the fact that this is pointless because the Doctor's dead now, only to see another letter at a table, and moments later the Doctor himself walks out. Earlier the Doctor had mentioned that he was, I believe, 1100 years old, and when asked again, he's like, that's probably personal, but if I'm a little over 900 if you have to know. So he is a much younger version, and he also got the same blue letter. He doesn't know who it's from, and despite even further attempts on by himself to figure it out later on, he still can't figure out where its origin was, and that it was apparently at least of Earth make. Everyone does pile into TARDIS, and they mention the fact of going to 1969, but the Doctor is planning to turn everyone back over to where they belong properly, because they're not telling him something and he can tell and he doesn't trust it. River Song tries to talk him into still going, but she also has a lot of secrets that she will not tell him because spoilers. Um,
Spoilers.
he then has to go. Then Amy tries talking him into it, to which he's like, "Is someone forcing you into this? Why are you doing this? Why should I listen? Swear on something that would make me understand that you're being real and serious about this." She mentions fish sticks and custard, I believe.
Fish fingers.
Fish fingers, fish sticks. It depends upon where you
Same
come from.
thing.
Yeah, essentially it's fish sticks and custard, but either way, yeah, it's more or less the same thing. To which she just kind of goes, "Yeah, okay." She's being serious about this. We gotta go. They track down the guy that they met that came with the gasoline in 1969, and it turns out that he was an ex-FBI agent. Ex because he wanted to do certain things that were not allowed by the FBI at the time. He was getting contacted about a month later by Richard Nixon to come back because there's something strange going on. They arrive in the Oval Office just as they're sitting down and having their meeting. The Doctor is temporarily cornered until they reveal the TARDIS, which was put into invisibility before landing there in the Oval Office. They proceed to try and figure out what's going on, and eventually coming up with a location as to where the strange calls that Nixon is getting are coming from. And apparently, according to Nixon, he keeps getting the calls no matter where he goes, even if he's not in the Oval Office. The call tends to be from a girl, young in age, and for a location, she only gave off about 3 names, all of which seem to be from previous presidents. And the only place that they can find those particular streets was apparently in Florida. So inside a building at the corner of those 3 streets, they find all kinds of high-end for 1969 materials, including even a spacesuit, and a bunch of other alien technology about. Upon further investigation, they do come across one of the group of aliens in the basement, but as soon as someone looks away, they no longer remember that they even saw the alien. This also happened while they were at the White House a couple of times. This would also refer to hint then that the stranger that Amy saw on top of the hill was also another one of these weird alien creatures, because she immediately forgot that she saw that there originally as well. So I'm trying to think what happened immediately after that. Oh, in the midst of a panic, the FBI agent was knocked out, and the Doctor went to rescue him. And in the midst of the panic, Amy said that she was pregnant because she was also having stomach pains and also a bit of a touch of essentially morning sickness type of stuff. Upon arriving at the FBI agent, they see the astronaut again, and the title, The Impossible Astronaut. The astronaut showed up once again, pulled back the visor, but Amy wasn't looking at the time as it pulled back the visor. It held out its hand like it did before, like it was going to shoot the Doctor from before. In a panic, she grabbed the FBI agent's gun and shot at the astronaut, only seeing the little girl a split second later. And that, I believe, pretty much ends on where that episode was. So that's The Impossible Astronaut. The next episode, name escapes me, Day of the Moon. Day of the Moon. That's a weird title to begin with. Pretty much picks
More,
up by
more X of
recapping
the Y.
X of the Y. Pretty much picks up with, I believe, recapping the last couple moments of the previous episode and then going into the little opening bit. I don't quite recall all the details, even though I watched it, but I do recall that everyone is now on the run and the FBI agent is chasing after them. The doctor was apparently captured and is being put into a prison using some sort of special blocks that fuse together. I forget what they called them.
Neutron star something.
Essentially, they're like really heavy, really thick, impossible to break through
The densest
bricks.
material in the universe, even
Yeah,
though something I'll mention later.
I'll talk about this later. I was going to
Yeah,
say.
I will rant about this later.
We'll rant about this later. So essentially they have the doctor already captured, and they're going after all the companions now. One by one, they supposedly either died or are killed, or are eventually kidnapped and brought in. The Rory and Amy, I believe, are brought in, presumably dead in body bags, as they finish sealing off the cell for the doctor. Once the door is closed, however, they reveal that the FBI agent has been in secret working with them, apparently attempting to try and make a airtight, impossible to breach little base of operations for themselves, with the TARDIS already inside. The FBI agent mentions the fact that River Song jumped off a building, and don't we ever wish that she would miss the TARDIS? Just once.
That's not to talk about during this.
Anyway, she lands in the pool, and they saved her by going back in time temporarily, which I thought was also another rule breaker, but we'll cover that later.
Trust me, there's epic bitch about that will be happening. Hey, I'm back to normal.
Hey, you dropped the accent. Anger drops the accent.
No, I think not talking long enough does.
I was gonna say maybe it was River Song.
River makes him revert to a certain base personality.
Of rage. Brooding rage. Anyway,
What, me brood?
Never.
I'm picturing Rand dressed as a cat man, standing on the roof of a building.
In basic, they set up a plot to try and figure out who's been setting up everything. They do manage to come in contact with a building to which Amy found a picture of herself with a baby. Then she has a freak out moment when both the astronaut girl and the extra creatures show up. The FBI agent was supposed to be with her, but they got separated as Amy went to look around for stuff. She gets captured by these alien creatures, and the girl also disappears with them. But in the preceding time, the doctor also implanted everyone with a message light in the palm of their hands, so that when they forget that they saw an alien, there'll be a blinking light, so people will try to remember that they've actually seen it and leave a message for themselves very quickly before forgetting that they ever saw the aliens. Even though the speed was left behind and is no longer physically attached to Amy, apparently you can still hear Amy through it. And it's constantly on. I'm still not sure how that works.
It's science. We don't have to explain it.
But the fact that it's science means you have to.
That's more to talk about later.
Like
Like I said, this is going to be pretty epic ranting night.
Oh yeah,
I
this
think
last
Bill
half
and
in
myself
particular.
have a lot of things to rant about this.
This last half in particular, I can see where you're gonna have rants. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of plot holes.
Yeah. It could have been good.
Imagine the plot holes if they had actually showed us what happened in the middle.
Yeah.
Oh, trying to cover this before we get into rant mode.
already amping up. Hurry up, Matt.
It's already cranking the amp machine.
It's over 9,000.
They use the signal to try and figure out where Amy is. In the meantime, the Doctor is figuring out that they're about to do the moon landing, which means that if not the entire world, then the majority of the world will be watching the moon landing. He has a plan then that since these creatures get forgotten, even if it's a fake image of these creatures, get forgotten if you don't look at the image or look at them themselves.
Of course.
So, what they proceed to do is prepare a video because they did wound one of them and caught it on phone that it was talking about the fact that they should be killing the aliens on sight because they have been altering things throughout the entire Earth's history and causing humans to do the things that they have been doing up to that point. So what the Doctor manages to do is that he gives them a very quick possible chance to just leave and forget, but obviously they don't take it, and obviously the Doctor has everything prepared anyway, so why bother doing it? The recording then has the secret message of the aliens saying you should kill us on sight, I believe repeated at least 2 or 3 times, and then goes back to the regular clip, which means that the clip never actually breaks for people who forget, but as soon as anyone sees the aliens, they would know to instantly attack these creatures on sight and remove them from the planet. So the aliens technically are already beaten and will be constantly beaten throughout the rest of history, even though people won't remember that they were even there. The aliens then have a freak out, which, by the way, they are called the Silence. They mention it, I believe, twice, 3 times maybe. And the Silence have their little freak out as everyone goes running back to the TARDIS after saving Amy. I believe River kills all the immediate Silence creatures that were in the area, and then they finally go inside the TARDIS and leave. And that's basically the end.
Okay.
The end of sense.
So maybe we should do
In
this
more ways
episode
than
in
one.
parts.
Yeah, let's start dealing with it in chunks, because I'm going to start frothing if I have to deal with it as a whole.
Starts thrashing around on the ground.
Ready to use splash attack. It was ineffective.
The way the actual very start of this is kind of an interesting thing that seems to really be. I mean, it's a little bit, very, very little bit in Classic Who, but it's very heavy in Moffat, which is where the companion will get dropped off to live for a while, and then the Doctor will come back and pick them up randomly later on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the closest thing we've ever had happen to that was Tegan, who intentionally left and intentionally came back rather than just taking a break.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think they accidentally left her, but they happened to leave her at the right time.
No, I think
And then
Tegan
she
left
intentionally came
because
back on.
Tegan left because she could actually get to Heathrow that time.
Maybe. I can't remember.
The Doctor, well, that was the entire first season of the 5th Doctor, was him trying to get to Heathrow on time to drop her off, and yes, he managed to do so. So she left, and then lost her job anyway.
Didn't she, like,
Where-
show up late or
whereas-
something?
Starting with this episode, Amy and Rory, and we don't know about Clara yet, spend months at a time in between episodes with the Doctor. And we really start to see that in the opening montage here, where Amy and Rory are just looking through history for the Doctor saying hi and things that he knows that they're going to read or watch.
And, I think part of this is so that they can justify novel tie-ins and stuff.
And he also appears in a Lorwan Hardy video. I never noticed that the first time I watched this episode, but I just noticed it when I watched it today.
Mm-hmm.
I love Hardy. That's a great thing.
I'm more of a Marx Brothers person.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I love the Marx Brothers too. I'm just saying.
We love our old school comedians.
Yes. Yes, the classics. Never go out of
Marx
style.
Carl and who?
Oops. Oh. Speaking of the Marx Brothers, my favorite book of all time is Harpo Speaks. If you ever get a chance to read it, you should. It's a good book.
That joke went on that.
I'm trying to avoid making shameless plug for GeekCon viewings. I really am. I'm trying to avoid telling people that we will be showing Duck Soup this year.
All right.
As part of our 100 Years of Comedy special.
His Excellency is due to make
Yes.
beginning is new administration.
Also,
When
this might be the first episode where they start randomly finding excuses for Matt Smith to be naked.
Did they?
I'm okay with that.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was presumably naked at the very beginning, wasn't
No,
he?
he was very clearly naked.
Yeah,
whatever
she was
gets you through the
beating him.
night.
When was this?
In the opening scene where there's the guy with the rapier looking for him and he's hiding under the
yes.
dress. And I don't know what relevance that scene had with anything, but it happened.
It led into Amy and Rory looking for the Doctor throughout history.
I'm just kind of curious about who the woman was and who the guy was.
Right.
It was obviously some noble.
Right.
Apparently,
Well,
by the
yeah,
wig.
but like.
But I'm not sure, you know.
And he says it's not as nearly as bad as it looks. So what actually was happening?
Well, he apparently for a star was posing for that picture.
Yeah, and Aaron thought that it was David Tennant that was the womanizer.
Nah.
Oh, Matt Smith
Well,
has his
well,
What you
moment.
do in your own
For the guy.
what you do in your own regeneration's your own business.
Well, didn't Matt Smith also get married to Marilyn Monroe
Yes.
Yes.
in the last episode?
That was in our
we
previous episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We didn't even mention that
We didn't mention that, but now it has
because we
been.
were too busy bitching about the rest of the episode.
He then proceeded to claim it was never a real chapel.
Oh, Doctor.
And I mean, it's like he that when he comes in, you know, he's like, "Help me! I've accidentally gotten engaged to Marilyn Monroe," and they're paying no attention to him because they're snogging, and it's just like, "Oh, right, fine then, Marilyn, get your coat."
They're snogging to get rid of the Doctor so they can finish their conversation.
I wonder, did he get married like in between Joe DiMaggio and Arthur Miller, or like what order? No, is
The world will never know.
it's true.
All we know is
Wink,
it was
wink,
Christmas.
nudge, nudge.
Let's see the beginning. So then we can proceed to them meeting up with River and such. It's not the first time she shoots his hat, I think.
No,
No,
she shot the
shoots-
Fez last season.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I thought.
Yes.
So by that point, it's
And damn it,
that's
Tim,
old
I've
hat.
got that song in my head now.
You're welcome.
Okay, Tim sounds too much like Jim because you said "damn it, Tim," and my first thought was,
Damn
"I'm a
it,
doctor, not a
I'm
bricklayer."
doctor. No.
You do realize I really want to do Doctor Who Star Trek fan fiction, so I can basically do a "Damn it, Jim, I'm the Doctor," not a.
Guys, it says here on the Wikipedia article for the episode that there was a prequel that aired on the website, the program's website. Pretty much, Nixon talking to the girl over the
Yes.
phone.
Yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're calling
It
her the
wasn't
girl now.
that big of a thing.
It's time to set the precedent. Are we calling her by her name or are we calling her the girl?
In other words, are we going to spoiler the season for anyone that hasn't seen it?
I think the rule about spoilers is 2 years, supposedly.
Well, it's been
Well,
2 years.
Let's for the
This was
let's for,
2011.
let's for the sake of argument just call her Melody.
Okay.
Middle ground. Melody. Okay.
Melody.
Can we all agree on that? Are
I
we all
can.
behind?
I won't argue it.
I won't
Sounds
argue with
fair
it.
enough.
That's fair enough.
Meh.
Yes. So they go to rescue Melody because Melody is calling the president of the United States of America.
No,
Because the
not that
Starman
far
is
yet.
after her.
But we're not actually that far yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We are in Utah. Yeah.
All right.
So what is worth anything we want to talk about in this scene?
The
This
gathering
scene
together.
is this scene is okay, but I can't bitch about it without putting the rest of the episode in context.
I kind of
Yeah.
like the nods to. He's like, oh, 1969 is an easy. Well, we did an entire opening bump on that reference, so obviously I
Did.
like that.
Oh, the
Got
60s.
stuck in a British accent for like 20 minutes. Because once you actually have to go and repeat saying something 16 times, it's like if I do a Spanish accent, I'll get stuck in that accent for a while too.
Every once in a while, the
Spanish
Godfather will get stuck for me too.
You don't expect to get stuck in a Spanish accent.
You do when you're trying to do essentially Puss in Boots.
I'm not sure if you missed the point of my joke or you intentionally subverted it.
I intentionally subverted it. And if you have any issues,
Oh, here we
with,
go. Here's
you
who
have
those
any-
characters were. Sorry.
If you have any issues with Bill's making fun of Spanish and Spanish accents, you can contact him at.
Just because no one expects the Spanish accent.
Nobody expects a Spanish accent.
I found out who those people were, by the way.
What people? Oh, the
The people
from
at the beginning of it's Charles II and bursting into the painter Matilda's room.
Ah. I'm assuming we
Okay,
have
means much to me. Not really.
Not particularly, no. And it sounds like we just lost somebody.
We lose Bill again.
Am I here?
No, he's back. Yeah, I think it was
Okay.
Bill that we lost. Bill, check your
Yep.
connection.
Well, Bill, I think, is in a thunderstorm, so.
That's true. Yeah,
Uh,
large part of it.
that might be part of it, yeah. Happens to the best of us.
Anything else to say about this?
Oh, here's the significance of him of them showing the Charles II, because the Fourth Doctor once told Sarah Jane Smith that he met Charles II before he became king.
Not sure what that has to do with the 11th Doctor being.
Yeah, I still don't know
No,
why
no.
the 11th Doctor is there, but yeah. Okay.
It's probably just a reference to that little tidbit. And also, it's apparently also a reference to the Sixth Doctor, also claimed to have met Charles II.
Charles II was a very popular guy. If all the doctors brag about meeting him.
Well, he was so popular he got his head cut off by the Roundheads. If you recall your British history, guys.
Roundheads, those are from the
Was that Charles
Bells of
II?
St. John, right?
They're not Santorans, if that's what you're thinking.
No. The Roundheads were the British forces when oh God, what was his name that overthrew the British Parliament briefly, or overflowed through the British monarchy?
Oliver Cromwell?
Cromwell. Yeah, they were Cromwell's stooges.
Did he just say Oliver Queen?
Cromwell.
Oh, I must have misheard him. I thought Tim said Oliver Queen, and I'm like Oliver
We're
Queen.
talking British history, not Green Arrow.
I'm like Oliver Queen did not overthrow the British government. I think I would have remembered hearing about this.
Apparently, several Roundheads came through the space-time rift in Cardiff as well.
And the Green Arrow had to stop them. Wait.
Well, no, we don't know who all was on that island. He has to fight the Roundheads in season 4.
Yeah, so
Then we
that's
go on to okay.
yeah, that's
The
that.
doctor being shot scene. Anybody have any comments to make about that one?
Apparently, it's important.
Well, can I just deal with this a chunk of the whole episode?
Okay.
Because this is one of my rants, as we know, because this is basically Moffat writing another ginormous bootstrap paradox. The Doctor, about to die, sends himself a message to his younger self as well as his companions to watch him die. Well, first of all, dude,
Not
seriously?
just his companions.
His
Well,
family, so to speak.
So to speak.
Yes. I mean, yeah, his dear ones, which you'd think there'd be a few other people that would have gotten invited to his own funeral,
and yeah,
like the
that
still
that
alive at the time Sarah Jane Smith.
yeah, and that's something you could. That's something I'm thinking of as a kind of an evidence that no, he didn't really die. You think Martha might have been there.
Yeah,
You'd think
Mickey, Captain Jack. A
yeah,
number
you'd
of
think
people
they're
that would have been there. The
well,
extended family.
Jack I think might have been in America. No, he was in America.
They were in America.
yes.
He was local.
Anyway,
Road,
but still,
America.
you've basically sent invites to your friends to watch your own murder. Think about this this is a psychological shitstorm. Now,
Trollololololo.
now, as the series goes on, I'm going to spoilerize a little bit because it has to be talked about now. They agonize whether or not to tell the Doctor, and he eventually finds out. Which, of course, sets him to go on this huge, big, angsty angst trip of angstiness. Before, of course, coming around to the other end, where he does it all again. In other words, how did this start?
It started because people that were his closest friends witnessed it in the past, even though it happens to him in the future.
Yes, I know, but he only sets it up because they tell him. If you look at this from a beginning to end standpoint, the first time this happened, he wouldn't have known, and he would
No.
have died.
My only thought is that eventually he would have had to, his relationship with River, eventually he would have had to figure out who she was.
There is, of course, the possibility that he wasn't the one to actually send the postcards. That it was basically the silence.
Or Clara, or
Or
any other plot device in the Moffat era.
I'm not thinking plot device. I'm thinking because I think they mentioned later in the series that they're basically trying to create a fixed point. So if they set it up, that still works. But if it was the Doctor that sent this all back for them to see it, that kind of A is kind of a dick move, and B kind of sets up, like I said, a cyclic paradox that has no beginning or ending.
Although now that I think about it, if Amy created the universe, why did she create the universe with the same people that blew up the TARDIS in the first place?
Because the memory was fed into her. That would bring back everything, more or less.
Yeah, I've never understood that,
Well, of course they have to come back because they're the ones that created the ability for her to actually do this.
Actually, perhaps this is something I probably should have mentioned earlier, and that's speaking of Amy recreating the universe. There was the whole big thing about her parents being back. You know who's absent from this season?
Her
And the
parents.
next one? Yeah.
Yeah, they make a big deal about them coming back, and the only parents we ever get to see are Rory's.
Rory's
only
father.
his dad.
Mind you, Rory's are like 10 times more awesome.
True, they got a lot more fleshing out.
Well, at least Rory's dad did.
Mm-hmm.
But, still, it was kind of as this huge plot point that, never gets addressed again. It's another one of those Moffat things. But no, I mean, first of all, yeah, if Amy is the one that recreates the entire universe, how the hell did she know about, all these little details?
Oh, by the way, speaking of Moffat plot points that are never going to be brought up again, I was debating whether to mention this later, but since you brought up that phrase, the Doctor has a chip in his hand that he can use to record things anytime he ever feels like it. Continue. Oh, that my interjection is done.
Okay, well, it's just like I said. Now I can't remember where I was now, Bill. Damn it.
I'm sorry. I should warn you when I'm going to interrupt.
But if she created the universe, as they seem to imply, how the heck did she get the stuff that Amy nor really the Doctor know about? Are there whole chunks of the universe missing?
Well, the universe is ever expanding, so that would eventually replace itself either way.
And this means which is more powerful? Amy recreating the universe out of her own memories, or Bad Wolf Rose destroying pieces of the universe willy-nilly? Which is more God mode-y, ladies and gentlemen?
It's hard to finger, isn't it? A little bit.
Because if Amy created the entire universe, wouldn't that essentially make her God?
Clara created the Doctor. Well, that's series. Well, yeah, we didn't see. Well, podcast fans have watched Series 7. People watching in order haven't watched Series 7. Or whatever. Yeah, New Who companions do have quite a bit of God mode going on.
Mm-hmm.
In particular, lately. There was a little bit with Rose, but she lost it as soon as she got it, practically.
Yeah, that was the good part about the God. I mean, a lot of people rolled their eyes at the Bad Wolf Rose being overpowered. Yes, it was, but it was lost pretty much the second it was done.
Same thing with Dr. Donna.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, at least Russell T could actually write his way out of the paper bag, so to speak, and then instantly make sure that it never came back to be overpowered constantly. Whereas Moffat
will either just incorporate it into the character, or will just never bring it up again.
Okay, now with Moffat, just now I have to talk about the in between these two episodes, because that just brings it even more up.
Mm-hmm.
A dramatic moment happens. Amy shoots the girl. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Big cliffhanger. Moffat's like, shit, I don't know how to write the next scene. Skip forward months in the future.
Yeah, he has some problems.
What the fuck was that scene supposed to end with? Like, did the Doctor get mad that Amy shot the little girl? Did they watch her not die?
Actually, it is addressed in episode 2 a little bit.
Like, it's addressed by the fact that the girl comes back and Amy's like, I didn't mean to shoot you. But, what? Like, did they watch her walk away perfectly fine? Like, obviously she hangs around for quite some time before she regenerates.
There's more to that scene than we saw. And that Moffat never gave. There is never any resolution. All we know is that she missed, and that's
she ended up regenerating because of it later on.
No, she didn't.
Then why'd she
regenerate?
That
was not the same thing. She spent
That
6 months by herself, living in the. She basically might have been regenerating from hypothermia, or from starvation. I mean, a little girl living by herself, somehow getting from Miami to New York City.
Of course, then there's the question of how did she get from early 70s, late 60s, early 70s America to early 90s London or wherever the hell it is without a time machine.
Well, okay, and this brings up another fact. This is the rant that we were warning you about there. How the hell is
We've
night?
just gone from rant to rant.
Yes, we are. We're going from rant to rant because it's all writing holes.
Yeah,
How
pretty
the
much after
hell
that first episode.
did 1969 United States get a hold of freaking the most impervious metal in the universe when we can't even leave our solar system?
By
Torchwood?
the way, isn't that the same metal that Mjolnir is made out of?
I don't. I actually have to figure out what the heck that was made out of.
I think it's the same metal as Mjolnir. In other
Ooh.
words, in other words, those technicians were stronger than the fucking Hulk. That's what he's like, the most dense material in the universe. You got guys with gloves picking it up. What the fuck kind of power suits did they have in the '60s?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a bit of rubbish.
Yeah, I mean, from what it sounded like, it's basically the same stuff as that we've seen in earlier Doctor Who episodes as Dwarf Star alloy, where a chunk the size of a table would weigh as much as an entire planet.
Yeah, never
They had a
mind the fact
ship
that
built
should be
out of it, and it was
collapsing.
actually ripping a hole in the universe
Yeah,
because it was so dense.
never mind the fact that each of those blocks should be burrowing through the Earth's core, causing massive problems.
Yes.
Like, I'm just sitting there, I'm watching him put it into place while he says the densest material in the universe. So I'm like, either he's bald-faced lying, or that's the most terribly written thing of all time.
Most
It
terribly
is
written thing of all
because
time.
how are they handling it and how did they get access to it? There's not exactly a compressed star in our solar system, and they're still trying to get to the fucking moon. Now, the silence is not helping them with this because they're doing it behind the silence's back.
Yes. Well, this is all fodder for a future episode where the Doctor gets a hold of a bunch of these blocks and then goes back in time before 1969 and just says, "Here, do not open until 1969."
You know what? That sounds like a Moffat episode.
It's just overly painful writing because it's so hackneyed, so it basically has no rhyme or reason behind why shit's going on.
Yeah, like, for example, well, I can kind of get why they're doing the whole, oh, pretend the government is hunting them. They never actually explain it, and they never show how they get from point A to point Z. But I can kind of get why that would be a thing that they would think of.
Yeah, a little bit. It's you get the idea, but they don't exactly tell you if you're right or wrong,
like,
though.
How is it that they're still all on a mission approved by the mission from the president to find a little girl is now them being approved to do whatever the fuck they want, including sending the FBI on a chase after them across the entire country to fool something the president doesn't know exists. Oh, no. Actually,
Yeah.
they do hint that the president kind of knows about them later because he mentions he has to constantly watch his surveillance to know if his ideas are his own or not.
Yeah, so there's somewhat of what's going on here.
Oh, actually, I just realized we have to spoil the rest of the season because there's something I want to talk about.
Okay.
The space race
should we start with the spoiler finger?
The space race happened because River Song is special. That's the moral of this episode. The Silence conquered the Earth so that they would get a spacesuit to put River in. What the fuck? That's kind of the only way to explain.
They not
how
only
this-
conquered the Earth, I mean, this is, This is like City of Death kind of conquer, where they've been doing it for millions of years.
Right, like they took over the planet millions of years in advance for the sole purpose of getting River a suit to grow up in and later kill the Doctor in.
It's over the top. And some of this, if it was just better explained, we could have.
It's worse than a Harry Potter fan fiction that said magic was created so that the original, self-insert fanfic character could use it to seduce Harry. It's
Well,
worse
that is
than
kind
that.
of what River Song is.
Yeah,
It's
that pretty much is what this is.
River Song
Rubbish.
is Moffat's transgendered self-insertion. Think about that. Turn green.
Hmm.
Moffat wants to screw the Doctor, so he made a female self.
And then proceeded to make it beyond powerful.
and essentially responsible for who knows what of human civilization.
Well, she's responsible for the downfall of the quality of the show, that's for a start.
Although I suppose it makes sense that the Silents were there since the Wheel and Fire, because those, forget the name of that original group, but they never could have come up with the Wheel and Fire on their own without the help
So
of
does
some
that
sort of
mean that
alien
when
intervention.
William Hartnell was hanging around at the Tribe of Gum, every time they turn around they'd see a silence and then forget about it? And the sudden pause means that Bill...
I've heard theories that episode wasn't on Earth because it doesn't match up with any Earth timeline, and it was just a random planet right around the same period of development as we assume.
There is that rumor. But at the same time, there's no real evidence one way or the other.
Yeah.
So I would still assume it's Earth. It's pretty safe to assume. There's no reason to assume otherwise.
That is by what the doctor says those are called, by the way. Zero valence dwarf star alloy. Is what those bricks are supposed to be made of. Now, like I said, the last major time we saw dwarf star alloy was the Warrior's Gate. They were using dwarf star alloy to carry time-sensitive slaves in. And the sheer weight of the ship had basically caused it to basically pull a hole in the universe.
Which, of course, as usual, gets the Doctor's attention.
The slaves were bound in dwarf star manacles. Oh, wait, no, we did see them later. Family of Blood. The father was bound in unbreakable chains forged in the heart of a dwarf star.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same stuff.
By the way, it was the Golga Frenchians I was talking about. That's right. They never could have come up with the Wheel and Fire without the help of the Silence.
Yeah, they were too busy discovering the manicure. Yeah.
No one would ever rub two sticks together or see lightning strike a tree. Or
no, they
like
burned down
that.
the trees because of inflation.
Yeah.
I see where you're going there.
I'm not kidding. It's in the book.
Yeah.
I see where you're going there.
Anyway, but no, there's no way they should get a hold of this technology. There's no way that all of this should be revolving around Moffat's insert character, and he's devoting all of his works of this season to this.
This rubbish character given to a decent actress who could have been spending her time doing something much better.
Correct. Or the character could have been done much better, less over the top. And even here, she's still annoying. She's trying to be,
They're trying to sedate it a little bit, and like you can tell the actress is trying to hold it back a little, but Moffat's not letting that.
No.
Oh, I should point out that at this point, the rough draft of the episode that comes before the opening sequence of this / is later on. You know, the rough drafts of two of the four episodes in this arc have not been written yet by the time these have started filming.
And you know, that is a difference between Moffat and Russell T. Is that
Russell
when
T would
he
have his
sat
shit
together,
together.
he at least had an outline of what would be going on during this season, and he would give it to the writers as kind of a little Bible thingy.
And just going here. No, you can keep writing your story, but if
except
you
he-
can, mention some of these things,
Except
maybe.
he apparently didn't give it to Moffat.
Well, Moffat probably just actually ignored it and tossed it aside. Is what my guess would probably be.
Probably.
Which episode
he-
was it that Moffat had no idea what Russell was doing that season? Season 2, I think.
Possibly. But I think Moffat was also a last-minute fill-in in that season.
So maybe that one in particular, he just lucked out and didn't get the Bible. Or, like I suggested, maybe he just didn't care and just tossed it out and then later lied when he realized that that was actually something that he should have paid attention to. We'll never
Or
know.
maybe he and
Wait.
Steven had had an argument.
Oh wait, are you saying that Moffat is a bullshit artist trying to lie to a bunch of bullshitters?
Maybe.
I mean, there's people in the fandom who, you know, will bend over backwards to get their own self-insertion characters into fan fiction.
This goes beyond bending over backwards. This is bending over backwards if you're the love child of Stretch Armstrong and Mr. Fantastic.
This is bending over backwards and inserting your head up your own rectum.
You have to remove 3
Wrecked
pieces
him.
of
Hell,
your
he killed
spine
him.
first.
Beautiful.
But tish.
Sorry, my roommate actually used that on me today, so it was in my head. Anyway, yeah, there's.
That's right. We were trying to go in a linear fashion, and I think we've halfway.
We
partially
lost.
succeeded.
We tangented into basic, seething, frothing, foaming
Yeah.
hatred of
We tried
did-
to.
doomy doom.
We did kind
Well,
of.
we're
go
still
in a
kind
linear
of in the
manner.
early part of the second episode, at least.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We covered the gap between episodes.
Yeah, we
We
technically
covered
that
the
gap.
beginning of the second episode.
Yeah, we're at the beginning, which still makes no
I think-
sense.
I think one of you wanted to talk about River's penchant for having the TARDIS come and pick her up from
Yeah.
jumping off of things. Which I think this is the second time we've seen that.
This is at
Yep.
least the second time. There was the Jetson into space, then there was this. Was there anything else? Was there another one there somewhere?
No,
Not-
because this is.
Not that I can recall at the moment, at least. At least up until this point. So yeah, this is like the second time now, and it's getting silly. What's even worse is that as they have her drop into the TARDIS, she lands in the pool and you actually see water splash. The pool's not that close, folks.
But they're not in the
Ish.
library this time.
Well, and it's actually kind of a not very good looking effect either.
Yeah, it's not even a good looking effect
Yeah,
either.
that is true.
I've seen
Wow, no comment from Moffat
sci-fi
when I
original
mentioned I mean, no
with it.
comment from Randy. Wow, that looked out terribly.
What's that?
I accidentally called you Moffat for some reason.
Ooh.
Probably because that's the name.
I think in this group we would consider that an insult.
Uh-oh.
I think that's because just that's the name that my mouth was
And-
used to saying.
Yeah, and a reminder, people, that during the podcast on August 23rd, I will be kicking Bill in the dick.
This is for calling me Moffat a couple weeks ago.
For a
As
limited
I
time
was-
only.
But as I was saying, she lands on the pool, but not the library.
And Randy pulls out the garrote wire.
It would be
Yes.
kind of funny if she landed in the
Ran-
library and a
Ran-
bunch of
Would
books
you
splashed out.
would you like to explain where that conversation comes from?
Not really, because I've explained it 100 times before.
Podcast?
But I no, I'll do it one more time.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. In the first episode, in the 11th hour, he says um that he had fallen in the pool and that the pool was in the library. This was a nod to the fact that the TARDIS was essentially on its side, and he was referring to the water, not the actual swimming pool location. So, all you fan fiction authors that like to place the library with a big old swimming pool in the middle, don't.
Aww.
As
And the line about there might be a pool in the library was a joke.
A joke about the fact that he has to now dry out the library.
Yeah.
One
And the
hopes
fact
that
that
not
the TARDIS
everything is made out of paper in there, otherwise he's ruined quite a few books.
And the fact that the TARDIS had just regenerated and he had no idea where the pool or the library were.
no, that
Also-
was before the TARDIS regenerated, but yeah.
Oh. Also, come to think of it, that one good thing that you've mentioned about a really terrible episode, you know what's not in that one set? A pool.
The pool?
So even more proof.
Actually, the pool's in a separate room that you can see.
Yeah, wasn't it one of the backgrounds that they walked by in a doorway or something?
Yeah, you can see the water reflection.
Yeah, they show it very briefly during
So in
that
other words,
episode.
they go out of their way to show the pool not being in the library.
Yep.
Correct. Because they didn't realize that some people would take that to mean literally when he was being semi-sarcastic at the time.
That's the Doctor's default form of communication.
Yes, you'd think people would be used to it by now.
But no.
But no,
I just
they
thought
forget
reading in
this is the
in
human
pool would be
race.
cool.
What'd you say,
Except for
Aaron?
the fact that you're on a ship that tends to rattle, shake, and move around. So yes, your pool would be swimming in books.
As I was saying,
Or your books would be swimming in the pool.
I thought it would just be neat to read while swimming.
You can still
I
do that
mean,
without ruining the
In
library.
theory, there should be, he could build up sufficient, gravity generators, inertial compensators, and the like to prevent that from happening. But
Well,
being the Doctor, he'd probably get bored halfway through and do something else.
Well, mind you, when we have seen the pool before, it, had kind of a beach house, bathhouse look kind of to it. And there were, tables and stuff with magazines and stuff on the side there. Barusa, if I recall, was reading an old copy of the Times that dealt with the sinking of the Titanic. And the Doctor noting that it was not his fault.
Blub, blub, blub. The Doctor would later return to the Titanic to convince the family not to travel on it.
Buddy. How did Pink Panther enter your mind?
Right?
Oh, I would say do, and I just went with it.
Ba-ding.
Da-do, da-do.
So, does anybody in this room not have ADD?
Nope! Not part of it!
Well, I'm totally not playing EverQuest 2 right now.
Aaron?
Really, Aaron?
I'm
next
totally not
so-
clipping my nails right now.
So, Aaron, what points would you like to bring up about this episode?
No.
God, I don't know if I can remember any of them. Yeah,
Pain.
there's nothing really that, I don't know, it's just kind of awkward and full of holes, and some scenes play out pretty well, like, I don't know, like the astronaut showing up on the beach, and was it Utah they were in? Yeah.
There's a lake on the beach. There are
Yeah.
lakes in Utah. Yes.
There's Salt Lake City
Uh,
There's Salt Lakes. Salt Lakes in Utah. Whatever. He's in the desert. He's in the American South, or Southwest, whatever. Yeah, and the astronaut shows up. I thought that scene was pretty interesting. I mean, it was kind of well filmed, but then it didn't really go anywhere. There's a ton of scenes like that. There's a scene where Melody, she regenerates. What comes of that scene? Nothing. We don't get to see. She just wanders through an alley, and then what happens?
I think the point of that is to kind of prepare the audience for Let's Kill Hitler.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the, hey, look, she can regenerate.
Oh yeah, and then
Adding-
remember we get the next episode where they're like, oh, she's a Time Lord baby because she's half TARDIS, half human. Because that is science. But we're not talking about that episode. We have plenty. I'm sure there will be talk about when we get there.
Oh yeah, we'll probably cover that in Flopping Roaming Rage.
I kind of liked the
Yeah, we'll discuss that in Let's Kill Moffat.
Actually, she mentioned the killing of the Doctor scene. I haven't watched all of the Time Lord episodes of Classic Who. How have they dealt in the past with killing someone while preventing their regeneration? I know that I believe there are Time Lord weapons that prevent a regeneration.
Stasers will prevent regeneration.
Has anything else really dealt with the idea of killing them so quickly they can't regenerate?
Some Dalek tech apparently could, from what I read from the
which makes sense because a Dalek gun at full power would incinerate the body before it could start the regeneration process.
Possibly, yes.
Because apparently they intentionally turn it down so that the victim suffers as much as possible while being incinerated.
While being
Aren't the Daleks just fun? Don't you want to invite one into your home for a cup of tea now?
Yes, I love the Daleks so much.
Davros is behind you right now, isn't he?
He's holding that vial of poison, isn't he? One of those days.
Oh, here's one thing. I've heard some people, like, not a lot, but I've heard a few people complain that the way Hail to the Chief is played in these episodes, it essentially becomes comic relief music.
No, I don't really see that. It's pretty much whenever Nixon is marching on to the
right.
Marching on to the scene to save the day.
I'm like, I do see it as, by the end, it's definitely more of a funny thing than a majestic thing. But then again, that's largely because it's Nixon.
It's largely because it's Nixon and he's hamming it up.
Who, at this point, 30 some odd years later, has largely become a running joke.
Of himself, yes.
Also, it doesn't help that there's that scene where he comes to bail out the Doctor, and he's completely clueless as to what's going on. But he's like, yeah, the Doctor does things.
Working for me. Don't worry about him. He's working for me.
Okay, so you got to do your Nixon, Matt. You happy?
No, he has to keep going on.
He's gonna get stuck in Nixon like you got stuck in the Doctor.
Okay, so who wants to be the headless reanimated body of Spiro Agnew?
Damn you, Agnew!
I don't believe I know what Spiro Agnew sounds like.
You can tell who's watched Futurama and who hasn't.
I haven't watched it much. Like I recognize, like, when you do the Nixon impressions, I recognize it, but not to the point where I could possibly predict lines.
Nixon was still president when I was born.
Wow.
Or no, he wasn't. I'm sorry. Carter had just gotten Ford was president when I was in charge. Or born when I was born.
You were in charge of the United States? That's crazy. You must have been a hell of a baby. Another healthy American.
I know at least two of us would have been born in the Reagan administration.
Yes. I was born in the Reagan administration. Ronald Reagan was president when I was born. Yep. During the year I was born, the president was Reagan.
Okay, so up to Ray.
Carter
Okay.
was elected in the year I was born.
Call me Ishmael.
Hi, Ishmael. How are you?
By the way,
Sorry, people start going on about
how's our
stuff about when they were
timestamp?
born. It's just like,
Matt, where are we for timing?
where are we for
I don't think
timing?
it's
I
like
think
that.
we've still got about another 15, 20 minutes.
Okay, so we got another 5-10 minutes to talk about what else is wrong with this episode.
Well, let's see here. We've covered the bad stuff at the pool. Oh, the hand buzzy thing being detached from Amy but still working as a one-way radio.
Yeah,
WTF?
yeah,
I think that was
because
supposed to be kind of hinting at something else that was going on, or
No.
not really. It was a vehicle for Moffat to, throw some doubt into Rory whether Amy loved him or loved the Doctor, which was unnecessary, really, because that was all resolved last season.
so it has nothing to do with Flesh Amy.
Not yet. No.
Not really. I mean, Amy
only-
wandering
the
around
only
on her own and coming across that room with with Kavorian's face and the picture of her. That's pretty much all the foreshadowing of that's here.
Yeah, yeah. The
Oh, and
hand
of
thing
course,
was just.
the I'm pregnant. No, I'm not.
Mhm.
So we can kind of assume that Amy was probably kidnapped while she was wandering around that mansion and replaced with a flesh sometime, or
We're
should I
not
say
sure about
early
that.
on? Yeah, either early on in that area or possibly even that seems
Before
to
the
be the most
episode
Well,
logical.
because like when they first encountered, like she was having stomach pains, like when they encountered the astronaut inside the was it?
That's what I'm saying. Like, well, I think when she's like, "Doctor, I'm pregnant," I think
Mhm.
I think that's probably, but not definitely, really Amy. Whereas, she does plenty of wandering around on her own, and so does everybody else. So she could easily have been switched out in any of the scenes between that and her saying, "Never mind, false alarm."
See, I always assumed that she was kidnapped before any of this even happened.
That's also a possibility.
I think she was kidnapped during that 3-month interim.
That's also a possibility.
That's my opinion. Is somewhere
Here's
in
a
there.
question. We know that. We do know that River. Well, yeah, we know the baby was conceived on their wedding night, which means that it was pre-Christmas. Do we?
Do we know that it was conceived on their wedding night?
Yes, because they mentioned that in A Good Man Goes to War.
Okay.
The doctor realizes that on their wedding night they were in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
So the question is how visible would a 3-month pregnant woman be?
Not two.
Yeah, not too noticeable.
Yeah.
And the doctor did mention that she looked like she had been putting on a little bit of weight.
Yeah, but that was the doctor that already knew.
Yeah.
Possibly, yes.
True. But then again, there's also the fact that Moffat doctors do like to, make, derogatory remarks about women's weights and.
Yeah, I suspect that was a hint, though. Either that or he made the comment and then later on went, oh, yeah, she should be. No, actually, no, because she mentions she's pregnant later in that same episode. So, yeah, Moffat already had that much thought out that he knew she was expecting.
So, yeah, it could really go either way. I mean, it could have been in the White House when she was alone with that silence.
Yeah, because
really
she
don't
did
know.
look down at her phone, and she was like, she had to turn her head away from the silence when she was looking at her phone.
Yeah.
And yeah,
There's
we
also-
don't see her forget.
True. She does have to look down for a
But
moment.
actually, now that we say that, I'm kind of thinking that might be the scene because that's the one time she's really alone with nobody looking for her and everything else. prior to the Kavorian scene.
Except for the fact that that's before she tells the doctor she's pregnant.
True.
That's right.
Well,
Actually,
could've
she
been-
also feels some more stomach pains later too. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
so
It
one
all,
to
it all
so it
depends
could
on how effective the silence treatment was. If they're bumbling idiots, then she could have told them she was pregnant well after they had kidnapped her and tried to convince her otherwise. If they're competent, we'd have to assume that they kidnapped her afterward.
I assume that they kidnapped her somewhere at the earliest, somewhere within that 3 month time skip.
Keep
No,
in
like,
mind that
I could tell
these are the creatures that had to occupy Earth for like
millions.
thousands, if not millions, of
Yeah.
years in order to put a woman into a spacesuit.
Yes, this is true.
yeah.
Well, when you live for thousands of
These are
years, you know,
these are
like
these
to
are the these
go
are
out
the
ever to
people
detail.
these are the people that destroyed the universe in order to keep the Doctor from saying his name and unleashing a battle upon a planet. I don't even remember what the Church of the Silence was all about at this point.
They were a renegade faction,
Where,
and
where
they were.
I no. Kavorian was a renegade faction of the Church of the Silence, but I'm trying to remember why they didn't want the Doctor to say his name. If they were afraid of Daleks coming out, if they were afraid of Time Lords.
They were
coming out.
afraid
They
of
were
Time
afraid of the
Lords.
Time Lords returning.
Ah,
Because
So,
remember,
yeah.
the Time Lords are the new monsters of the universe.
Technically,
so this same sect that kidnapped Amy is the ones that blew up the universe to keep the Time Lords from coming back to it.
Pretty much.
So no one ever
Logic.
said no. You can easily, you can assume that Moffat is thinking in a Robert Holmes style manner of everybody's an idiot when he's writing about them.
yep.
Let's see. Anything else we want to discussing?
When I first saw this episode, I couldn't help but notice there was a very, a very big similarity between the Silence and the Weeping Angels. It's like Steve Moffat was going back into his own pool, into his own well a bit too much.
The internet can't help but keep bringing that up. But yeah, we have the monster that's the perfect evolution. Evolves to be the perfect hider and evolves for the perfect defense.
Mm-hmm. It's almost the same thing either, too. I mean, blink and the angels attack you. Blink and the silence make you forget.
Yeah.
It's still a very silly defense mechanism, although if developed right, it could lead to really interesting creatures. Developed wrong, like both of them ended up now, and it's just kind of. Oh, speaking of which, another thing to bring up before we start calling it, the FBI agent. I forget his name.
Something the third.
Clinton Everett Delaware the third. Is that it?
Something the third. Yeah.
Hmm.
I thought he was a pretty genuinely decent companion as
He's
character.
okay.
Actually-
He's something I would have liked to see in more than one story, even though they specifically built into this story that he will only ever see the Doctor once. I would have liked to see, a couple of, maybe a prequel story, maybe like a comic or a short story type of deal, or even a short episode, a minisode.
And there's still plenty of time that he could end up seeing the Doctor again. You never know.
Yeah, mind you, that doctor only knew as far as the point where he
1100
was.
years, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't know.
I mean-
He would have been a cool kind of pseudo. I would have liked to see him. He could have been in Torchwood, actually.
I was just going to say that.
yeah, the Men in Black. He's American.
No,
Yeah.
the Miracle Day.
Oh, you mean the show? Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He could when they did
true.
Miracle
If
Day,
they had
they could have brought him in on that. That would have actually been a nice.
if they had done season 5, he would have been a good fit.
Of course, this is um Russell T versus Moffat here.
Yeah. So most likely didn't.
Whoa,
nothing
hold
would have
up.
happened.
Oh God, my brain just made a terrible comparison, because if he joined Torchwood that late in the game, that would make him Harmony.
Where?
Because if you think about a large thing of Torchwood was largely Torchwood was to Doctor Who what Angel was to Buffy.
Oh, I have no idea then.
I don't know, because remember they added a whole bunch of new people, and it's hard to make that statement when, Torchwood has a body count like you wouldn't believe, including main characters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you think by the time of Miracle Day, it was just Jack and
Jack and Gwen, yeah.
Yeah, that was
It was supposed to be Mickey and Martha.
Mm-hmm. But it wasn't.
Yeah. Oh, I do have one thing I want to mention about this episode. I do not think it's a coincidence that the Silence have a half-insane lackey who's, twitchy and has a name that almost sounds like Renfield.
Yeah.
Who? What? Huh? What? What?
What's his name? Renfield? The guy running the closed shelter, the closed child shelter or child home, whatever it was. At first, I thought they said his name was Renfield, and then I really realized all the similarities, and then I realized, oh no, it's Renview, not Renfield.
Yarg.
Yeah, but it was kind of
Now, if the Silence had convinced him to eat a fly or something, it would have been too obvious.
Or if you asked to eat a small cat.
Yes, master. I am at your control, master.
Yes, master. Yes.
Sorry. I whenever somebody talks about Renfield, I can't help but think of Peter McNichol from Dracula Dead and Loving It.
You just did that one.
I think of Tom Waits.
Well, I'm just fond of Peter McNichol as an actor in general. Janusz Poha from Ghostbusters 2.
Oh yeah.
It's Vigo.
It's Vigo.
You are like flies to him.
Hose him.
What's going on?
Yeah, I loved him in that. I loved him in Numbers. I've loved him in just about everything I've seen him in, and that his Renfield is so classic Renfield. It's great. And he's playing it opposite Leslie Nielsen.
Why am I covered in goo?
Yes, Renfield. I am in the sun. I am eating chicken. But master.
Wow, this is a hell of a tangent.
Oh yeah, it is.
It hasn't really gone on that long.
But I wanted to talk in particular the part where I started to realize I was actually really liking the FBI agent was when they came out of the TARDIS while they were in the the factory where the Silence had set up stuff. And finally, after a few moments, he comes out and he's like, after a few moments, he's like, "So, what do you think?" And he's just like, "I like your wheels." Good man.
Yeah. Oh,
Nice ride. Yeah.
Nice wheels.
Another relatively innocuous line that's worth mentioning. You guys mentioned that some of the gaps might be for the sake of the comics and other stories and things. Well, one thing that supports that is the line, "Why is it always my turn?" Which implies that it has been his turn more than once in a row. And for those wondering what I'm talking about, the scene where Rory is expected to comfort and explain to Delaware what the hell is, with the bigger on the inside and everything.
Yep.
Have you mentioned the time part? The time machine? I was working up to that.
Oh, yeah. You haven't even gotten to travels in space and time yet.
Yeah, that's I think something that they were thinking of because they knew that there was going to be comics. They knew eventually they were probably going to get a license with Big Finish to make audios.
Hmm.
They know that they're
And
planning on novels and yeah.
this is off the heels of last I looked, and I don't know if this is still the case or not. But last I had seen, there was more media, there were more stories written about the 10th Doctor than any other Doctor, and not because he had the most time on screen, and definitely not because he had the most audiobooks, just because Doctor Who had blown up. So I think they had gone into this season aware of that fact.
Okay, so I think we should probably get into final thoughts at this point.
I think we're close
Mhm.
to it. Yeah.
All right. Who wants to go first for final thoughts?
I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Final thoughts. These episodes had some good points. I like Richard Nixon. I liked the temporary companion, the guy the third. That said, this is not one of my favorite episodes, just because it is one of the most convoluted episodes I've ever seen, with the plot holes and everything. It would not be if you've never seen Doctor Who. I would not recommend you start with this episode. So
We seem to say that when Moffat writes episodes.
Yes,
We usually
yes.
just say
I
a lot.
remember you.
Yeah.
I remember you saying the opposite for the snowmen, Bill, and we're
No,
sadly mistaken.
yeah, I remember thinking the snowman was going to be a good jumping on point with a new companion and everything, and turned out to be very, very, very mistaken.
Yes.
It took a lot convincing to bring your friends back around on that.
I don't know. Opal's still on the edge about whether to watch a second episode or not.
Okay.
Jeez.
So,
Well, All right, Matt, your opinion.
My opinion, I have to agree with Tim on this one. There are some really good high points in this. There's a lot of characters that we could have easily revisited by now, and we should have. And then there's a lot of really weak rubbish because of just horrible convoluted up its own bum writing. Just some of the worst. And go figure, it's a Moffat episode. It's kind of the start of the beginning of the end with season 6 for me. There's kind of a
Okay.
reason why I stopped watching season 6.
Aaron,
Mhm.
your
Very
opinion.
convoluted, pretty confusing. I remember I was kind of excited when I first saw everybody meeting up. I'm like, okay, what's going to be happening now? And then finally,
Bam!
the second episode rolls around. I'm like, what is this? What did I just watch? Should it even make sense? I mean, some of it does, but
There's so
I
much
don't know. I don't
random
understand why there's
rubbish.
still. Why are the silents even still around? It's like I remember watching later. I'm like, did they defeat these things at the beginning of series 6? Yeah, because
On
that's
Earth,
what
yes.
it was. Mhm. I remember watching the ending for series 6 and being like, didn't they defeat the silence a long time ago?
Again,
they
on
defeated,
planet Earth, yes.
they defeated the Daleks a long time ago too.
Well, yeah, but it's just,
The Dalek War Machine, it never ends.
And
There's
the
no really
Cybermen.
defeating it, there's only delaying it.
Yeah.
I guess, but
Anything more, Aaron?
no, I think that's it.
Bill?
I think Toby Haynes did a very good job in this episode. I think the main cast and pretty much all of the guest cast. Actually, yeah, I would not say there's a single guest star, and between Renview, Delaware, Nixon, all of them did a good job. So there's one person who made a lot of problems with this episode, and that is the guy who wrote it and executive produced it. Everybody else did a good job, but he did a lot of problems.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion with the rest of you. The acting was good, but you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear.
Mm.
And this episode was one big sow's ear. It was just poorly conceived, poorly written. It looked like Stephen did not put any effort into it.
Oh, and to clarify mine, Toby Haynes was the guy who directed it.
Mm. So, yeah, it's just if it wasn't for the writing, this would be a good episode. And its writing failed. Boy, doesn't this just sound like a Christmas Carol?
Yeah.
All
Punch the
right,
groin.
so points 0 to 5, half points allowed. Tim.
I'd give this 2.5, just because of all the problems, but the 2.5 points for the great characters. Yep, that's my.
All right, Matt.
I was already also conceiving of a 2.5. The only saving grace is some of the characters, which sadly we've never revisited, and we really should have by now.
Mhm.
Aaron.
I'm gonna say 2.5 also. Not the worst, but definitely it could have been better.
Bill.
Well, I gave A Christmas Carol a 2-star, I believe, whereas this had a significantly more solid supporting cast, and so I'm also leaning toward a 2.5 on this one.
Okay, I have to give this one a solid 2 myself. And yes, that's the climb because of the supporting cast from the 1.5 I believe I gave A Christmas Carol.
Mm-hmm.
So 4 2s, or 4 2.5s and a 2. So 11 divided by 5.
So it's better than a Christmas Carol at least, so it was a
Comes
step
out to
up.
about
2.4 average.
Yeah, that's what I thought. 2.4.
It's a step up from the previous story, but the previous story wasn't all that great to begin with. And this one still isn't all that great either.
Yeah, well, this one has more supporting cast, and that's probably only the real
Yeah,
major
that's
difference.
the main thing that saved it.
Because the only other supporting cast in A Christmas Carol was Kazran.
Oh, Catherine and the girl whose name I don't remember.
Adelaide or something like that. Anyway, so that wraps it up for.
We didn't talk about the silence using lightning from their hands.
Yeah, there was no point to that really, and we've never seen it again. That's just like hi. It's just like he's trying to establish they're the bad guy just by using force lightning.
Force lightning for the win. So what's next week again?
And that would be Good Man Goes
Good
to
Man
War, I
Goes-
believe.
Yes, it is.
So we're hopping all the way to the end of the season.
No, we're
No.
hopping to the middle of the season.
Middle
Mid-season.
season.
It's the last episode before the summer break.
Yep.
Yarg.
Yep, it's the end of the first part of season 6, and then we'll actually have to cover the first part of the second part with Let's Kill Hitler before going on to the wedding of
Basically,
Rick Song.
our next 2 episodes would have been a 2-parter had they not been bookending a break. They're essentially 2 sides of the same coin, but they are separate stories.
Are we going
Yep.
to review them as a two-parter, or are we going to keep
No.
them separate?
Unless we disagree, I'd say go into them as 2 separate stories.
I say go and do we have time for that before the 23rd?
Our sacrifice is the doctor, the widow, and the wardrobe. So it depends if someone feels strongly about including that beforehand.
Why don't we deal with it as a 2-parter?
Okay.
Might as well.
We're doing 2 at a time at this point. We might as well. We should be able to stomach that. They're both on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if we're treating that as a 2-parter, that would make it the last 2-parter, unless you count the 50th anniversary stuff as a 2 or 3-parter.
Technically, yeah.
All right. So, that should wrap it up for us. We'll see you next Wednesday. This is our acting time, at least for the time being, until the new season starts. Then we'll discuss when we're watching stuff again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. Catch you all later.
Good night, everybody.
Next week.
Mm-hmm.
Nighty night.